Good evening. This is the Raleigh Finance Committee meeting of September 9th, 2014. Time is 7:20, and call the meeting to order. And the first item is to review the minutes of July 8th. Hot off the press. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't know if that's a typo on page 2, item 7, a library, third sentence down, a few book. Is that supposed to be racks instead of trucks?
No, the trucks that they move the books around in.
Okay, so they call them trucks?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, all right. Thought that was misspelled.
Yeah. No. No. Have you seen them over there?
Well, yeah.
And they got wheels on them, and they.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is just the terminology.
Yeah,
that was
right.
I never heard them call that either.
No, neither did
I
I.
used to
But
be a
We call
library
them carts,
trustee. I used to
so-
be
Right.
a library
Yeah.
trustee. So.
it's like the hashtag is, why isn't that a pound sign? But-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second?
Seconds.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Yeah, one other thing is, I was looking in the Robert's rules, and of course, for a large, like Congress or stuff like that, you normally make the motion, it's seconded, and then you have the discussion on it. I guess it's because if no one's interested in it or not a second party, then there's no discussion. But I think in our case, we really need the discussion, part of the discussion first before we're even gonna vote on it. So I think we're gonna deviate from Robert's rules. I think you were bringing that up.
Yeah, I'd like to have the motion on the table in a second, and then we can discuss anything we want with it. But you really can't discuss the motion until it's made.
True, but we'll say if you have the motion to approve the minutes and it's seconded, and then the discussion is not to approve it, not to approve the minutes, to postpone it because of corrections, we'll say, then what do you do?
You amend the motion with corrections.
Well, but there might be too many corrections that you want to postpone it. Well, we'll,
I was just going to say, Peter, your name is spelled C-E-N, isn't it?
Yeah, was it spelled
It's
wrong?
in paragraph 9. They have it as Consuelo
Oh, okay.
in both locations. So I just
Oh,
thought
thank you for pointing
we should
that out.
correct it.
Yeah.
C-E-N.
right.
Thank you.
Well, you're a member, so.
Yeah, no, I didn't consider that.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 3, discuss revolving fund requirements necessity. I added this because I was watching the Conservation Commission meeting, and in that they stated that the Finance Committee was dead set against their having a revolving fund. So I just wanted to discuss why some departments have revolving funds and some don't, and things like that.
Who was dead set against not having?
The Conservation Commission.
Was dead set of not having?
Well, no, the Conservation Commission wanted one. They said the Finance Committee was dead set against their having it.
Really?
Right. I think this was before our time.
But we don't make
didn't
that
know.
decision.
Town meeting makes that decision.
Yeah, we don't make a decision like that. We only recommend things.
Right. But I'm just repeating
Yeah.
what they said.
Yeah.
Who would have? Oh,
But I,
How many departments have revolving funds right now?
There's a whole
Must be a few, right?
long list of them.
yeah, the Water Department,
No.
no? They don't have a revolving?
Oh, the senior center,
Parks and
maybe, I guess so.
Recreation has one.
I can
Senior
tell you
center.
right now, hold on.
the ones that usually bring in money, I think are
There's,
the ones that have. the
there's
revolving.
13 under chapter 44, section 53 and a half. Then there are other, they're not revolving funds set up under that statute. They are allowed under certain statutes, like the zoning statutes, that provide for the planning board and the ZBA to have funds that are set up where an applicant puts in an application fee that covers a technical review, so that the planning board would then use that money to hire their own technical review of an application, so that would be a expense borne out of the budget. So there are some other off-budget accounts that are revolving that aren't specifically under that statute that we approve and renew each year. But there are 13 right now
Okay.
that are under Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, which are authorized. So some are like the Council on Aging. I can quickly just summarize it, into which the receipts of the rental, the COA van, are deposited and are used by the Council on Aging. And what they do is they pay the backup COA van driver to drive the van on some trips, so that the activities director, who is also the permanent van driver when she's not available, this other person is paid for out of the revolving fund. The Board of Health, it takes into which 1/2 of the septic disposal construction fees charged by the Board of Health are deposited, and then those are used by the Board of Health to finance special waste disposal and technical expertise beyond the health agent's scope of responsibility. So they use that as a funding source for the for special household hazardous waste recycling days, and then to hire any special technical consultants, maybe to review septic plans that require maybe a professional engineer level scrutiny of a septic plan or something like that. We have the Parks and Rec Board of Selectmen account, and those are receipts from donation, advertising, and rentals of the Recreation Committee facilities shall be deposited, in which may be used by the committee to pay for operation and improvement. So some things like the Independence Day celebration on the town common. I know the Rec Committee had a concert on the common a couple years ago, so donations and other things were deposited, and then those funds were used for those purposes. Also, the Rec Committee and the Selectmen have another revolving fee, and that's for the deposit of the user fees for the playing field. So the Triton Youth Soccer Association, Little League, Rowley, Babe Ruth, they use the fields. They're earmarked public fields for a certain time period to be used by them, and they pay a user fee to the town. And then the Rec Committee uses those funds to, for lawn maintenance and to offset the cost to maintain it, to cover the electricity for the irrigation systems and things like that. The Board of Selectmen has a revolving fund. Years ago, the town got a grant for composting bins, so we were actually selling those, so the revenue from the sale of those would go to purchase more from the state, and then they were being sold for that reason. Highway Department for the rental of Highway Department equipment, which may be used by the Highway Department for purchase, repair, and maintenance of equipment. Shellfish Department, 1/2 of the shellfish permits sold shall be deposited and used by the Shellfish Department for the propagation of shellfish. Zoning Board of Appeals, from filing an associated application fee shall be deposited and may be used by said board to defray mandated expenses related to boards' hearings and meetings and professional assistance. I know that they have two, so this one, I'm not clear what the other one's for. Cemetery, 1/2 of the cemetery plot grave digging and footing installation fee shall be deposited, which may be used by the cemetery board for cemetery department operations. Library, receipts from library services such as photocopying, faxes, laser printing from public computer stations shall be deposited, which may be used by the library to purchase supplies related to those services. For the maintenance of the office equipment. Agricultural, donations and fees charged by the Agricultural Commission for programs and events shall be deposited and used by the commission to defray expenses incurred to operate the programs to hold events. I know that's, so the community garden, they have donations, and the farmers market, and I believe they use those funds to buy the banner for
Right.
the Harbor Master. This is a new one. Donations and proceeds from the sale of the Harbor Master boat and equipment shall be deposited and used by the Harbor Master for purchase, repair, and maintenance of department equipment. And then the 375th Anniversary Committee, so this was a special purpose revolving fund so that we would have a mechanism to accept the donations and things like that, and the proceeds from the sales of the T-shirts and things like that, then to use to pay for the expenses. So that was it. Those are the
Okay.
13 under that statute.
Without the revolving fund, all of those monies would go into the town general fund.
Right.
And so the individual departments wouldn't be able to use it.
But as far as the comment from the Conservation Committee, if they felt they wanted one, it would be a discussion with the selectmen, correct?
Discuss it with the selectmen. The finance committee would review it as part of a town meeting warrant article review. So they need to have an enabling warrant article before the list on the renewal list. So you, in that capacity, you certainly would be reviewing that and
Right.
lending your opinion into that, and then at town meeting ultimately.
Right.
Who sets the guidelines, like for going back to the one about the shellfish, that you could do, that they can use 1/2 of the money for that? Is that something that the Department of Revenue sets guidelines for that, or who does suits?
Yeah, the board,
The town,
yeah, in
the
concert.
board will come to the selectmen and say, look, we need X amount of money to run each particular fund per year. And then between the board and the Board of Selectmen, we come up with a figure, and that's what's put in the warrant. So I mean, what it really does is, like some of those fees, some of it goes into the general fund, and then the excess fees that don't go into the revolving fund, so that they have money to use during the year for, like say, the cemetery, cutting grass.
But why shouldn't, I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head, why shouldn't they be entitled to all the money if it's their
Because-
account from what, instead of having some of it go into the general fund, why can't they, you know, if it's for that department and it's fees that they have set up for, why not have, why have some of it go in the general fund and
Well,
stuff?
if they wanted more, they could ask for more, and ultimately,
Right.
it's the town meeting that decides how much they want them to have, and being as frugal as we are, we try to keep them to spend as little, any department to spend as little as we can, so we, you know, and it's just, the fees are set by the agency at the request of, you know, they request the selectmen, ultimately you guys review them, and that's a fair amount of money, and what periodically happens is, a lot of these departments, that every couple of years, they come in and they do request more money because expenses go up and so on and so forth, so it's really a way of giving these departments some funding when they have fees coming in all during the year. So rather than have those fees go into the general fund and they're not available until the following fiscal year, it allows those departments to have some flexibility for, you know, like for grass, if you take the recreation committee, for instance, grass cutting, and if we have a wet summer, they do more grass cutting than a dry summer. Well, we have no way of determining that, so rather than take a chunk of money out of the general fund every year, they have the ability to use that money, and whatever's left over just remains in the fund until the following year. And basically, it's worked. I don't think there's been any real problems with it. I'm not sure what the Conservation Commission issue is. Maybe you find out.
Yeah, I don't
I'm not aware of any problem they're having.
I'm not either. You know, it's
Maybe
just
we
a
can check
comment
with-
that they
we can
made
check with them and
that,
see, you know, if they got-
what I thought it would be interesting to just bring it up in our meeting to kind of discuss the revolving funds and get a better idea of, you know, its purpose and how it's used, and, you know, and that, you know, we really don't have much say-so over it, other than, you know, when it comes up as a budget item.
And if they want one, they go to the selectmen, not
Right.
us.
Is there a cap of like $20,000 or
It
something?
it depends on which account, so if they do, and I know, if they do want to exceed that, they have to meet with the selectmen for approval and, the finance committee to temporarily raise that cap, and then at town meeting, if it's gonna change, it has to be part of the
Yeah, they
annual
cap,
town
they're
meeting
capped
warrant.
each year, so in other words, the
The
town
state
meeting
law doesn't
authorizes
cap
them to
it.
spend up to
Yep.
whatever the cap is, and when they can't spend any more than that unless they come back to the selectmen and finance committee during the year. And these funds can only be set up at the annual town meeting, not at special town meetings. It has to be done at the annual town meeting as part of the overall budget process.
Okay, any other comments or so? No. Okay, let's move on to reserve fund transfer for the air conditioning for this office, which is 65 degrees outside and 80 degrees inside with the heat on. Thank you very much. Okay, have the request for transfer, $8,285.
Yeah, basically the air conditioner, which is behind you
Right.
and the units
Be-
outside.
Before we do that, let's have a
Oh,
motion
okay, I'm sorry,
to
yeah.
approve it.
Well, why do we want to approve before we find
No,
out?
we
I thought
make,
that's-
we make the motion
Oh,
and
okay.
second it,
All
then
right.
we have discussion.
Right,
Yeah,
Alright.
then you can turn it down if you want.
right.
I might get up for it.
Are you gonna be the first to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded, okay.
Now I have a
Now we have a
question.
discussion.
My question is there any way that at the town meeting that money can be put back into the reserve fund?
That would be up to the board of selectmen.
Yeah, well, I'm just putting it out as a thought.
We'd have to come up with some money somewhere, we could
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah, but it's something to
take a
think
look at
about,
that, yeah.
because this is early to be taking a lot out of the reserve fund. That's my only concern.
Well, my concern is, I mean, the air conditioner, that costs as much as my furnace in my house. Is this
Right.
I mean,
Well,
Did
this
we
is
do
the
price?
thing that we're replacing,
Yeah, I
by the
know,
way.
is that-
The
Right.
situation you run
Check.
into, Peter, and a prime example is we originally requested the sum of
$5,285 or something.
$5,495. It's a unit for this office, for the other office, the outside. Unit's about 10 years old. As a result of the original bids that came in, did not include the minimum
Prevailing wages.
prevailing wage rate, so the price went from $5,495 up to $8,285 because we have to pay the prevailing wage rate per state law. That's one reason why municipal construction and state construction is so expensive, because, so that's why it's so high.
So Breen Sullivan was the low bidder originally, or?
Yeah.
We went to, we had another company look at it, we weren't getting a response back, we called up Breen and Sullivan, we were just trying to get it fixed. Because it wasn't working at all, and there are public meetings in here. They came back and they said that we needed it to be replaced, which was similar to what the other company had said, but they, and I'm sorry, and I'm trying to remember, this was back in July. They hadn't given us a quote yet, but this was well under $10,000.
Which gives you the freedom to do anything, anyway.
We
Sound judgment.
followed sound business practices on this. But, you know, the prevailing wage rate is what made the difference. They initially didn't include it.
So you saying the difference then, in, because of the prevailing wage rate, it went from 5,500, almost $3,000 higher?
Right.
Really?
Yep. Yep,
The
that's it.
state tells us what we have to pay.
I didn't think
Right.
it was that great.
and I don't know, I had, someone
Very
install
high.
my furnace, I had the person that owned the company install, and he's probably making more than the prevailing wage, and it didn't cost, $8,200 for, I don't know, I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, I don't know what kind of a system you got, I mean, for the system, what we need to
Janitron.
replace this system, that's the bid we have, and
The state sets the rate, so.
Well, I know
it's
they have
pages of this thick for
You go
every,
Compass and the-
task that's done is a different union rate that you have to pay. So, in a sole proprietor, who is coming in, does the work, does not have to pay himself the prevailing wage rate, but that's unusual. There are employees that'll be working, and so every employee that's part of it has to be paid the varying rates that are in the set of sheets that are that thick.
Okay, no, I realized, but it just seemed a lie.
Are they able
Oh,
to,
but the- oh, go
are
ahead.
they able to do this in a relatively short
yeah,
time?
if we get the money, it'll be done ASAP.
What is the prevailing wage rate for doing something like this, do you know?
Offhand, I don't.
Well, the whole value of the difference is almost $3,000 from what they would charge in other.
No, but I didn't know if there was,
private
what the
companies.
hourly rate was or
It's-
Oh,
something.
the rate sheets are this thick, there's the
Oh.
different rates for different tasks.
Okay.
Yeah, when you apply for the prevailing wages, they give you 20 sheets of every person that works, electrician, carpenter,
okay.
plumber, whatever it is, even if they have to cut a hole in the wall and the carpenter comes in, you're gonna pay
It's
65.
a combination then,
Yeah,
yeah.
you pay a
Right.
lot of money an hour.
I see.
So,
It definitely puts the price up.
Yeah.
But with state law, we have no.
It is what
no-
it is, yeah.
Yeah, we have to do it, so it's, we need the air conditioning system. So it's an emergency, and we can certainly look at, if we can come up with some money to replenish your fund.
It's just, as I said, just a thought that
We can certainly
came
talk
to me
about
today, and I thought it was something to at least put out on the table.
Okay, any other
I
discussion?
remember years ago,
Okay.
towards the end of the year, the library, the old Ezekiel Rogers School Library, the furnace blew up on us, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
and
no,
that
you
was
never
a
know.
big, so you never know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and you need, what you need the reserve
I mean,
fund
worst comes to
for.
worst, we have a special town meeting and take money out of the stabilization
Yep.
fund or something,
Yep.
if we have something huge that goes, so. But yeah, we can certainly take a look at that.
Oh, as I said, it was just a thought.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I guess we take a vote now. All in favor of accepting the 8,285, which leaves a balance of 41,715 in the reserve fund?
Aye.
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 That was 4. Is there?
Anybody against?
Okay. One, two, three, 6. Now Debbie, on this, everyone signs this, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Lefty, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about the people that don't approve or abstain? Do they sign?
No.
Okay. Now you tell me. Say my signature.
You can write it next to their name of saying them.
No, I'm just,
Wait,
You need to modify the number then from 6 on there, does that?
well, it
how
says
many
number
approved it?
present
No, the
in
number
voting.
voting.
Oh, present, okay.
Right.
Voting.
And voting,
Yeah.
okay.
But thanks for pointing that out.
Okay, just in case, yeah.
Right. Okay. Next thing is to discuss the special town meeting. Oh, no,
No, the
excuse me,
revision.
budget revision form. I
It was
think
very nice.
last meeting, I passed out a sample of it. And Amy and everybody else has come up with a better version of it, prettier version.
I'll make your
You-
motion that we accept this.
Okay,
I'd like to make
motion.
one. Sharon is the vice chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
I
Oh,
second.
sorry.
Your second, that's all
That's
right?
okay.
Confused.
Yes.
Yeah. And we
This
also
is-
need to have the clerks listed
Okay,
as clerk too.
okay, so list as clerk. And what was the other thing, Janet?
Vice Chairman.
Vice chair is Sharon.
That's me.
Yeah.
I was voted out.
Okay. Have a vote to accept the form with the revisions?
Aye.
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 Aye. Sounds like just doesn't seem right. But,
So I think you should say all in favor,
Aye.
and then we can
okay,
all chime in at once.
well,
So
okay,
that-
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Does that sound
Motion
better?
Mr. Chairman, we'll put this approved FinCom with today's date, and then we'll send it to the Board of Selectmen to approve at
Okay.
the next meeting, so we can also put, just in the footer, approved by the Board of Selectmen, so it's official,
Okay,
so that they can approve it as well, so it's a joint form
okay,
for both boards.
thank you.
Can I just raise a question on that, going back to the, that unit, the air conditioner? Like, how many man-hours does he, because, I mean, he said the prevailing wage, but how many hours could it be more than, if
Well,
it's
let me-
$3,000?
Let me read,
Yeah,
let me
here,
read
hold
the
it. Let me-
quote. The quote is,
There's,
remove the existing refrigerant according to the Clean Air Act. Disconnect the faulty system and dispose of it. Install a new Panasonic ductless wall hung handler. Product number will be hung in the same location. Install a new Panasonic condensing unit. The unit will be installed in the same location. Install new refrigerant piping. Reconnect existing power to the unit. Provide wireless remote controllers. Evacuate and charge the system with refrigerant and test the system. That's the entire process. I
So
can't
who
break it
figured-
down to any.
But who figured out the prevailing, like, how do they know
You-
how much time it's gonna
That's why
be?
the contractor figures it. We
Yeah,
have no
the
idea how long it
contractor
takes, so the contractor tells us how many man hours. We don't like the price, we don't buy it.
So, but I'm saying, I'm not trying to give you a hard time,
No.
but I don't see any hours in here or
No,
anything like
because
that.
that's
No,
all-
because
Like,
he figures the price, and this is
Right.
the price.
So, but it should really be broken down in more details by by hours, by labor rate, whatever. you
Quotes
know,
don't
from,
usually come that
No, I
way.
don't.
Well, the quotes that I do, I work with the state, and I request all vendors to have a detailed breakdown, you know, and if I looked at this, I would say, whoa, you know, how did they come up with this number? That would be my question, and I would kick this back and have them break it down into better detail. So, I mean,
Peter,
that's.
could I just make a comment? Like, at my own house, I have central air, and I was looking into having my system replaced,
Mhm.
and I think this is the same situation. We can't use Freon anymore, and they said I'd have to have everything replumbed for whatever the refrigeration that they use now, so that's a lot more labor, replumbing, and they told me that I should do the furnace and the central air at the same time. That would be about $15,000 at my house. And they says if you do the central air first, and you have to work around the furnace, it's going to cost a lot more. So I'd be better off to do it at once. So it sounds like this has got Freon in the system, right?
Yeah,
If
no,
it's 10 years old?
In other words,
Probably.
all we
I
want is the
suspect
system
that's the
replaced.
reason.
If we're gonna say that the contractor says it's gonna take 10 hours of a plumber's work, let's say, off the top of my head, we're not gonna sit here and say, we want you to do it in 8. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
No, I
You know, in
know.
other words, we don't like, if we feel that the prices are come in too high, when you do the good business practice, you check with 2 or 3 contractors. And if prices are all there, that's
What it is.
what it is, and the thing that kills us is the prevailing wage. But I mean, we don't nitpick on, you know, can you do this in 2 hours or an hour and a half, or, you know, that
But you're
kind of
allowed-
business. Because sometimes you never know, because if he opens these walls up and runs into a problem.
But you're allowed three bids, you're supposed to go for at least 3 bids, right? And then you take
No,
the
it's
lowest,
best,
Not under
for this kind of
10,000.
money, it's best business practice.
best business practice?
Right.
Why, because it's under a certain.
Yeah, it's
dollar
under a
amount?
certain amount. Everything has changed. It's been
I mean-
upgraded, because it was to the point where we couldn't do anything without going out to get written bids, and everything was just, you can't even get contractors to do small jobs if you're gonna go out. If you call them all the time and ask for a bid, and then you never give them the work, they don't give you bids anymore. I mean, it's just
And what ends up happening at the end of the job, they have to provide the town with the form anyway, with the person's name, how much they
Yeah.
paid. So at some point, you're gonna see how many hours were paid to each individual in each category.
But you gotta
But the-
consider, this is one job. We're doing, you know, with the budget and stuff has jobs all over town. We don't have the help to be second guessing contractors on stuff that we have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. We have to take the contractor's word, and that's why we get quotes, and if it's within what we can afford to do, we do it. And, I mean, we get, you know, literally probably 100 or 200 contracts a year that, things that get purchased and bid out and projects that get done, and we just don't have time to do all that. So we get bids and prices, and if we're satisfied and we got the money, then that's what we have to do.
Okay. All right, let's discuss the special town meeting, October 27th. From what I know, the town will have about 3 warrants, and the water department
You,
Articles,
articles
yeah.
will have 3.
Water department's gonna have 3, you said?
Right.
No, we're not sure, the warrant hasn't closed yet.
No, but
So
But right now, it's looking at,
right now, we're looking at the water department having probably 3 or 4, depending on what they vote at their meeting next week, to the net transfers within their budget. The selectmen at this point primarily, and there may be some other things, but we're looking at, the primary issue is the Brad Street Farm baseball, Little League baseball field that the CPC, we appropriated, or they appropriated, the town appropriated 2-3 years ago, $220,000 to build a baseball field over at the Brad Street Farm. Well, Bob Murray and myself and Tim Southall, the town administrator, and working with consultants, have determined that the property over there is so bad in terms of soil and drainage, and we have to level the field, we have to dig in, which is gonna interrupt the water table, which is gonna create a further problem. And we're already had some work done to look at it from the federal water management issues, and basically we got a rough estimate to build the field. We would need probably another $250,000 over and above the 220 we already appropriated. So therefore, we decided that it's just not feasible. There was some other issues over there as far as it was going to be a limited amount of parking. The field was going to be way out in back of the current fields over there, so that was going to be difficult for parents they would have to basically drop their kids off out front of the school, and they'd have to go all the way back to the back. So anyway, we determined that our committee, that it wasn't feasible. It was not worth spending that kind of money for a baseball field that basically gets used 3 months a year. So what we've done is reconsidered and looked at the fact that if we take the current soccer field that's over behind the Pine Grove School, which is already leveled, is large enough to support the construction of a Little League field. And what we're doing is we're trying to replace the Little League field over on 133, which we feel is totally unsafe due to the numbers of kids, the amount of traffic, the lack of parking, and little kids running out into that busy road. We want to get out of that field as soon as we can before we have a horrible accident. So what we'd like to do is build on the town land that's already available behind the school, and we'd like to repurpose that money towards building that field over behind the Pine Grove School. And if we do that, we're going to lose a soccer field there. And what we're looking at doing is out at Ayers Park. If you stand across the street from Ayers Park and the police station on the right, there's the road that goes into Ayers Park. We own multiple acres on the right there. We hope to have, we want to put an article in to repurpose that for recreational purposes. And though it's wooded, it's flat, and we would look to reconstruct the soccer field that we're moving from behind the Pine Grove School over to that location. In addition, we're hoping that the property will support a tennis court, ultimately, the next phase, a tennis court, and maybe a skateboard park. So it's just basically, the original proposal was well intended for the Brad Street property, but just economically, it's not feasible. So what we're looking to do is repurpose the money, it's CPC money. So we need to go before the CPC committee and repurpose that money towards the construction of the ball field behind the Pine Grove School and a new soccer field with amenities over at Ayers Park. And that would work out well because soccer doesn't play at the same time Little League does. Because one of the issues was if we tried to build a Little League field over at Ayers Park, you've got 5 little kids baseball games going. If you ever go by there in the evening in the baseball season, there's the place is packed with cars. So if we add another baseball field there, there's gonna be no parking. So this way here, if we put a soccer field in there, that kind of gets used on a different time of the year, so it'll kind of spread the traffic out, and the Little League field would be behind the school, so that Little League traffic would go over there. So and it's the best use of the land that we have without going out and buying more property. And ultimately, we leave Brad Street, that area that we're not gonna build on would remain rough, basically, and, looking back when I was here before, we kind of looked at maybe that would be a good camping area for the scouts, or hiking, or, do tenting and stuff like that over there as part of active recreation, so.
How big is that Brad Street lot, Dave?
The what?
How big is that Brad Street lot? How many acres?
Wow, the whole thing is, what, 100 and,
Almost 200.
yeah, 200 acres.
Oh,
A lot of that's
oh, it's a lot
conservation.
bigger than
Yeah, a
that.
lot of it's marshland.
Right.
We sold the house and some land
7
over there
acres.
for some affordable housing,
Okay.
and we got the conservation land, and I think there's around 10 or 15 acres for recreation.
Recreation.
But the recreation part of it is poor, it needs a lot
Yeah.
of work to make it usable.
Yeah.
Does the
And like I
soil,
said, we ran into the soil, when they come back and said the height, the water table there was extremely high, which we had no way of knowing.
Yeah.
And the soils basically are so bad that to support a field, we'd have to take the soils out, put
Yeah.
crushed
Drainage,
stone and, and everything else, and run pipes underneath to run the water off, and then bring in loam and gravel and stuff to make
is
so
it
it's just-
sand?
Must be mostly
What?
clay.
Is it sand?
I have no idea.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, living right back up to it, my whole lot, I have lousy lawn because it's
Yeah,
all sand. The whole
basically
area
not,
is all
not
sand.
usable, so
Yeah.
it's, rather than investing another 200 and something thousand, we just said, well, what other alternatives can we look at, and this is what we've come up with, that I think that, hopefully we'll be able to do that for the 220 that I think there's about 208 that's left after we did all the engineering. And, hopefully we can get the baseball field. And the other good point is that if we can use that for a Little League field, that could be built and probably used right away, because if we don't ruin the grass over there, the grass it's got a decent lawn over there already, so that should be a big plus in terms of getting it if we can do it at the special town meeting and get everything ready so that we can do some of the building during the winter. The idea would be, if not next spring, at least the following spring, we could get out of the Little League field that's over on 133.
You're gonna abandon that one?
We're gonna be in and give it back, it's on watershed land
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
and that we'll basically just let that grow in, and the water department will have it back, and we'll kind of swap it, kind of swap in kind, for the land that we want to use for a soccer field. So we really have a need for recreational fields. I mean, it's just, every town's going through the same process, and we are too. We're fortunate that we got Harris Park up there that we bought a number of years ago. And the Recreation Committee, and Tim Southall in particular, needs to be commended for, he meets with us on a regular basis, and he's for no money, he works, he's a dog when it comes to, attacking the stuff and working with us and putting things together and making sure the fields are kept cut, and he does everything. And for no money, it's amazing what the man does, so we're working with him and with the recreation people, and we're hopeful, we anticipate anyway, that I don't think there'll be a problem transferring the money, and we can get going on this ASAP if we can get the thing passed at the special town meeting.
When are you closing the warrant for the?
4 o'clock on Monday, September 22nd.
So on the water department articles, they're meeting next week, so we advised them at our meeting last night that they need to have their articles. They got some transfers regarding, we're really getting some, with the new water superintendent now, we have someone who's really given us some hard numbers, and based on a little bit of experience since we've started pumping water through it. So the water department will have they're not gonna be perfect numbers, but they're a lot better than the
Better,
guesses we
yeah.
made last year. And they're also looking to, we realize that staffing, we need to hire a third secondary water operator, because we just don't have enough staff to run the water treatment plant, because you have to have someone there, as well as run distribution and the piping system in the town. So they're gonna be, I imagine they're gonna be looking at transferring some money to hire someone. It's all money that's already in their budget, it's just a matter of moving it around from the different lines, so. But they'll make that decision on Tuesday night, they're meeting at the water board, so.
So you would have the articles like a couple of weeks after that?
Well, I spoke to Chairman White last night after the selectmen's meeting, just to lay out the time schedule, because the town meeting warrant has to be posted not less than 14 days before the date of town meeting, and that happens to be Columbus Day, Monday, October 13th. So I actually have to have the warrant, my plan is to have the warrant signed by the Board of Selectmen on Monday, October 6th. And then it will be sent to the copy center and given to the town clerk for posting. And I had suggested that the Finance Committee meet on Tuesday, September 30th. It's the last day of the month, to review the warrant articles.
Okay.
And if you want, I don't know if you need another meeting, maybe the week before that, if you want people to come in and need time to think about things for recommendations. But that's something I think that you probably want to discuss tonight.
Right.
I think you need to have a meeting where you're just listening to the water board and the superintendent discuss what their plans are for those articles, and you don't want to tie up your meeting on the 30th with that, then maybe you want to have another meeting the week before on the 23rd.
What are the other two articles that the town's proposing? You said there was 3 articles. One is
It's all related, there'll probably be,
Well, we have some transfers for police union, and we have some other just minor housekeeping things.
yeah, the house, mostly
Okay,
house.
nothing major.
We do need to,
Yeah.
that piece of land at Harris Park, we need to, that's under the Board of Selectmen and the Water Department, and we wanna have the town vote to put it under recreation,
And the
Chapter
CPC
97, state Chapter 97 land as recreation, so that people understand that that will be used for recreational purposes, and we're not gonna be building buildings or other things on it. Because the other thing is, that eventually, we hope will go up there will be a new fire station and expansion of the police station, which we're looking at it as we speak too. So that's gonna be a busy area up there, we're kinda looking at the whole property, because we need to make sure we have enough parking, enough space for recreation, enough space for police and fire, and all share it and make it work, so. There's a lot going on, but at this point, we need the town meeting just to make these parcels, transfer that parcel to recreation, so we know we got that. If we do that, then transfer the money from, take that money from Brad Street and put it into the parks, and that's the main thing. There may be a couple other things too.
small things, yeah.
Those are the primary reasons, along with the water department, obviously, so
Yeah.
the water treatment plants.
Transferring ownership of land, that's not something that we vote on anyway.
No, and
No.
it's just, all it is just, making it.
Yeah.
Mainly, we want to do it so that people understand that we're not going to take that land, which is treed, and use it for a building or some other such thing. It will be used for recreational purposes. And like I say, we have a real need for increased recreational space, and this is a piece that will fit the bill, we feel.
Speaking about recreation, what about the Girl Scout property now? I don't know, is that, I don't know, I haven't been following that. Is it what the why?
We're in the process of putting together the purchase and sales agreement with the Girl Scouts, which we hope will be done before the end of December. And we're in a position that once we're hopefully, I know the town administrator's been working on an RFP for a camping facility out there, whether it's the Y or somebody else, we have to put out an RFP. And the minute we get take possession of the Girl Scout property, we will immediately put out the RFP for the camp, because we're hopeful that by next summer that whoever takes it over will be able to start some camping activities out there. So that's another ongoing project that we're putting a lot of time and effort into.
The only thing I like to make a point about that is if you have a private concern like a Y that's gonna, like in Ipswich, that's gonna have part of the land, and then they're gonna be, to me, if they charge residents in Raleigh to use the land, it's kind of like we're getting hit twice, because we pay taxes on the land as part of, us, the town. And then, if they turn around and start charging fees.
Well, it's no
You know,
different than
from,
the Little League. In other words, the Little League's a private organization, and they charge fees to the kids to play Little League, and they have a contract with them for the field. So, it's very similar to, on a little different scale, but The other issue we have out there is the Girl Scout camp has a number of buildings and facilities, physical. It's not just land, they have a swimming pool, and there's about 8 buildings out there, and we have no means or methods to take care of or upgrade or even use those buildings ourselves. So if we don't want to have a camp out there, then ultimately we're just gonna go out and have to tear those buildings down at a great expense. And obviously, we sold the concept of taking over the Girl Scout camp at the town meeting with the idea that we were gonna be putting a camp out there and there'd be reduced rates for town residents and activities, and maybe the way the Board of Selectmen sees it and the way we sold it was that it's a real opportunity to bring in, to use that as a campsite, and maintain it the way it is, and have recreational opportunities as well as a lot of open space that people, it'll be a combination that Girl Scout, whoever takes the camp, whatever organization is only gonna get a small portion of it, and the larger portion will be kept for other recreational purposes, conservation purposes. So, it's a matter of, it's a done deal. The town meeting okayed it at this point, so we're moving ahead with a vote made by town meeting, and ultimately, at this point, it'll be the decision of the Board of Selectmen to move ahead with putting out the RFP and awarding the contract to a qualified.
Yeah, I think
And part of that contract will be, I'm sure, we'll write into it, redo. Other towns that do the same thing. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're doing what Essex has. Essex did the same thing over there, and the Y took over, for instance, a big portion that they use for a day camp over there. So we're kind of following the format of what these other towns are doing, so that what we're doing is legal and okay. And we'll be looking at Essex gets reduced rates for residents. And everything costs money today. Nobody's gonna get anything for nothing, because it's the cost and expenses are, unless you wanna have increase the budget itself to account for people that camp for free, it's not gonna happen. I mean,
You don't have to be.
it's sad, it's too bad we do that.
But you won't have to be a
User
Y
fees.
member, right?
The what?
You won't have to be a member of the Y to.
Oh, we don't know who's gonna get it. I mean, it may not be the Y, it could be someone else.
Yeah, I'm just speculating if it is the
I
Y.
mean, with the RFP.
Yeah, but right
the
now, I
RFP
think
will
what
be
we ought to
written-
do is just defer that discussion for a later date, and get back on our topic here of the town meeting articles. But certainly there's valid points, but I think right now it's not germane to this meeting, so let's keep on track here. And I think, is there any other discussion on the articles for the town meeting? Anybody?
No.
Okay, so let's discuss the next meeting date. Is everyone available for September 30th? Which is kind of our drop dead date.
The Tuesday?
Right, Tuesday,
Yes, sir.
7:15.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you think we need one before that?
I would suggest that we have one before that too.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so we can hear what's going on. I mean,
Right.
it's hard to come in on a short meeting to gobble up all the information that will be coming forward, so,
Yes,
especially the water department will probably have a lot of discussion on that, so.
right,
So if we could have a meeting,
on the 23rd,
yeah, that would be good, I think.
right.
Okay.
Is the 23rd at 7:15,
That's
okay?
fine.
Okay, so we have 7:15 on the 23rd, 7:15 on the 30th.
Do we need a vote on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Just checking.
We do need a motion for the next item to adjourn if there's nothing else, which I don't think there is. So,
I'll make a motion.
all right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for watching.